Hey guys, I am joined by one of my incredibly talented friends, Erin Deering, and I just have to start this episode with an apology because we actually did this before and it was one of my favorite episodes. I'm not just saying this. There was so much value and so many tips, and I just felt like it flowed so well. And afterwards, I was so hyped about it. And then it didn't work. It just did not save, or something was wrong with the audio. So I just want to say thank you for being here again. And yeah, Erin has done so many incredible things. And actually, I feel like weirdly the timing's worked out better this time round, because not only is she the founder of Triangl, the most incredibly iconic swimwear brand that we all remember and has the strongest visual identity ever, but also she is now the founder of Deering, which is so cool and so unique. So I'm really excited to have you here and just to kind of go through the whole journey. So no pressure on
no
me
pressure.
to try and get the same thing.
Get the flow going again. We have to do it
exactly.
again. No, it's good. I'm glad. I mean, we didn't do it in person last time. It was
I know.
over Zoom. So
This is the
much
first
better.
time we're meeting, which is
I know, it feels
so
good. I
weird.
feel like I was actually thinking on the way here, I'm like, we haven't met in real life, have we? It's like
I
when you
know.
don't know, like you don't even remember. Because I
It's
feel like
so
we
weird.
have, but we hadn't.
I know. Look at us go.
I know. Look at us.
So, okay,
Yes.
where to begin? Because I feel like
know.
there has been you're such a rounded individual with so much wisdom to share, and you're also a real open book. Like even on your stories every day, I just love following you because you share the good, the bad, the ugly, the everything in between.
Yes.
So, can we please go back to when you created Triangl?
Yes.
And how that even came about?
Yes. So this is like 13 years ago, because I was 27 when I founded Triangl and I'm 40 now.
Woo!
Yeah, that's like that. Actually, the rumors are true about turning 40. Like everything changes. It's
Really?
crazy. Yeah, it's
Okay, I
wild.
wanna
It's
go
in a
into
good
that
way.
as well.
But yes, I was 27 and I'd been in fashion my whole career. So I started in retail. I worked on the shop floor. I was a store manager. I wanted to get into head office. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I thought I'd maybe work in operations or do something, like just anything. I was like, just in fashion, buying, product development, operations, marketing, whatever. I didn't go to university, so I had to work my way up through different ways by like proving myself. So that was going fairly well. I got into like a marketing role for a jewelry brand. I got into e-commerce, which was like, online stores, which was this burgeoning channel and distribution method for retail, which was new, that was like in, 2008, 2009. So I kind of started working on a few brands or with a few brands setting up their e-boutique, as they were called back then.
Yes, they
Remember
were.
those days?
Also, how crazy that was like such a like innovative idea.
It was
online shopping.
It really was. I remember thinking like the novelty of being able to shop 24/7, whereas now it's sort of actually, it's a given, and it's changed things. I don't know if for the better or for the worse, but it's just changed things so much.
Yeah.
But back then it was like so exciting. So I was doing that and I was loving it, and I was going really well in my career, and I was kind of seeing how I would fit in, because I loved the customer side of fashion. I loved fashion, but I hated how snobby and like elitist it could be.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to go into that side of it. So I loved being on the customer facing side, because that was really nice. And I could support customers in sort of their sizing and getting their orders out in time and helping them. And I loved that. So I was doing that, and that was going well. And I then met a guy, and he was 10 years older than me, and he was a true fashion guy, like a fashion designer, very, very cool, very handsome. He played professional football.
How did you meet?
We met at a bar.
Okay,
And I knew who he was.
You were onto him.
But he didn't know who I was. And we just sort of like fell for each other really quickly. And so on our second date, we actually went to the beach, and I was running around like a headless chook trying to find a bikini to wear, and I wanted to wear something really cool and really fashionable, but not too expensive because I couldn't afford it, and I also just didn't. I was never into like more high-end brands then anyway. I was more like trying to find the coolest pieces for the cheapest price, and I couldn't find a bikini that fit that mold. So I got down to the beach and I told Craig about my journey into finding a bikini and my lack of, and he just said to me, well, why don't we start a swimwear brand? And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, no worries. Like thinking, I actually thought it was a bit of a pipe dream. I just like didn't really I didn't know Craig. I didn't know Craig that well yet. I didn't realize that when he said something like that, he actually means to do it. And so we kind of did. And Triangl was born then and there. And about 6 months after that, we both had full-time jobs. So we kind of danced around coming up with the name and the logo and a few samples and here or there. And then sort of 6 months after that, he said to me, I think we need to move to focus on this. Like, I think we should go and move to Hong Kong because our supply chain is near there.
That is crazy.
Crazy.
Also the belief he had in you.
Yeah, I know.
The trust as well. Because really, like, 6 months in, I mean, what the hell? You don't even really know each other.
I know.
Did you live together by this point?
By that point, yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
fine.
we moved in together like after 3 months, I think. I moved into his place, and then we moved to Hong Kong. I'd never even been to Hong Kong. I'd never even visited,
mad.
and I just packed up my things and we sold everything and we moved. Like,
But don't you
crazy.
find like there's some energy in like being so young and like
Oh, yeah.
naive that you're
So
like, yeah, sure. You like just agree to things that if you
Yes.
were, now you'd maybe be like, okay, maybe we don't move to Hong Kong
Yeah,
straight
look,
away.
I'm still probably that person that
Okay,
says
I
yes,
love it.
and it's been
Figures it out.
It's actually my husband said to me like a couple of weeks ago. It's one of the things he loves the most about me
Aw.
is how I just make a decision and run
for
with it. But look, it's got me got me unstuck as
It
many
served you.
times. Like as you know, it's like I've learned a lot in that
Yeah.
process as well. Like it's great to be fearless in that way, but it's risky.
Yeah.
This one paid off though.
Yeah. Okay, so you
Yeah.
found yourself in Hong Kong.
Yeah. Yeah.
And by that point, had you actually started any of the like designing or had you done anything to do with the startup of the business?
Yeah, so we'd incorporated the business in Australia.
Okay. Like you had the name.
We had the name, we had some samples
Okay.
that we'd made, and we kind of had a feel of where we were going with it. We were wholesaling it. That was the plan at the start. So
Yeah.
we weren't actually doing the e-boutique yet. We were doing wholesale because that was the model that Craig knew and he had some good contacts.
Okay.
And we were a brand new brand. So whilst I'd been part of e-commerce for like established brands, I'd never seen a startup do an e-commerce brand.
Right.
So we didn't even really think about doing it. And so we kind of launched the brand over from Hong Kong and did wholesale. And our first bikinis weren't the neoprene that we became famous for. They were just normal nylon spandex.
Okay,
So it wasn't this like explosion of a start because they were kind of bikinis that people had seen.
So there was nothing kind of specifically unique.
No, like the prints were cool. We did these like graphic prints and they were very retro, very 70s. Like there's this one that had like a beach scene on the top. So like blue ocean and sand and then the bottom
that.
was like people and like on the beach.
Oh my God.
It was pretty cool.
I feel like
I'm
also
sure I can
people
dig
are,
out some photos.
people are copying that now.
Yeah, I
Maybe
know.
You're the inventor of that.
I
love
know.
it.
So that was like our initial kind of start, and that was going okay. But it was at that point, sort of maybe like a couple of weeks or a month after launch, that I was like, I think we should really focus on setting up a store online and just see how that goes, because that felt like more of an exciting kind of way of going about it. And I also liked the control aspect of it. I knew what I was doing. I knew how to kind of, set up a site and how to get it going and do the customer care. And so we did that, and that's when things started to change, because that, alongside using social media, which at that time was only Instagram, was sort of...
And Instagram then was so different. Do you remember?
different.
It would be like sunsets. Or
Sunsets.
like,
It was in the the autumnal filter. It was all in like golds and browns, like leaves.
Yeah, that's so
and like
funny.
with a border.
Yeah, it
you
was
know? And no
leaves.
captions. People literally, because Instagram started as like an art. Like it was like an artistic expression. It was for artists. It wasn't for creators and businesses.
It felt quite like artsy, didn't it? It didn't feel
Yeah,
kind of
no,
like
no.
cool girl or
Yeah.
wellness or anything.
No,
It was
absolutely
more like
not.
photographer
Yeah,
style.
yeah, and personal use, not
Yeah.
for businesses. So we saw the opportunity with that really early on. There were a few Australian brands that we knew that were doing some good things on Instagram, and they were, because back then blogs were big.
Yeah.
So the creators were all doing blogs. And we could see that the bloggers were starting to use Instagram. And so we were like, well, they're moving to that platform as newbies. So they're starting out, which means if we're starting out and they're starting out, we all have the same kind of growth trajectory.
Yes.
So we jumped on Instagram really quickly. Plus it was free. So it was like, no brainer. Like, let's test
Perfect,
that.
let's try it.
Yeah. Because you didn't need to do anything. You just like started posting photos.
That's amazing. And
Yeah.
how did you know what content to post?
Um,
Like, where did you start with your content plan? Like,
Yeah.
you've just gone onto this platform. Then
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, I think we pretty quickly started the gifting process because we had our like photo shoots that we did, which were always like super rogue. And Craig used to actually take the photos and I would do all the other bits and pieces, like hold the lighting ring and like it was
Oh
a
my God,
two-man
I love
team.
it.
And that only gets you so far, obviously. And plus, we can already tell that people, they like a campaign for only a certain amount of time. It has a pretty short runway. So we were like, we need to get girls in our bikinis and we need to share that. And then we were like, well, how? And then I was like, well, why don't we send these bikinis out for free to people that we know or people that we know of and people that we like, and let's just get them to share their photos and then let's repost those. Which was all new. That was all new information.
Also,
that wasn't done back then.
Minor detail, it's swimwear. So that's a hard task.
A hard task.
To convince people to feel confident enough to then, wear your
Yeah.
bikinis and then post it.
And then post them. So we kind of started out by, basically if anyone came in contact with the brand, like any potential customer, friend, whoever, I would build that relationship organically and sort of, instead of just saying like, hey, here's a bikini, post about it. It
Yeah.
would be like, oh, do you have a size in question? And like, blah, blah, blah. And then where do you plan on wearing it? Oh, you're going on holiday. Oh, it's so interesting you're going on holiday. Where are you going on holiday? Oh, to Bali. Oh, cool. So you're going to be in front of like blue ocean and like beautiful white sand. And okay, cool. Well, do
What
you
about
want
this
to,
one?
yeah,
Yeah.
how about we send you this bikini? And if you take, and it was always, there was no expectation of anything. So it
Yeah.
wasn't like, we'll send you this, but we want this. It was
Yeah.
like, how about I send you it? Absolutely no pressure. Just if you do take some photos, like whatever, but like it wasn't even that. I wouldn't even suggest it. I would literally just say, I want to send you this as a gift. I'm keen to hear your feedback about the brand as well, which I really genuinely was, because
I think that's such a good tip
Yeah.
for founders or startups. Like, don't have the expectation and don't create that transactional relationship with your customer. And especially those that, like gifting is such a big thing to build brands. And
Yeah.
it is everything. I mean, it's how you guys started. And it's so important. So if you kind of start that relationship as like, we'll give you this if you give us that, it sets a bad tone. Whereas if you're coming at it from like a value perspective of wanting that feedback, it changes everything.
Changes everything. And that's the thing. I always say, like, one of my biggest pieces of advice is that intention is everything. Like if your intention is genuinely because you just want that feedback or you want to build that rapport with a customer and you want them to just like your brand and tell you what they think of it,
Yeah.
then you're going to have more luck in having other things work for you. But if your intention is that you actually really just want them to post, but you're going to pretend that you actually care, then people actually can feel that intention, It's
100%.
really, really important. And it's something that I use in my brand now and something that we just did so much at Triangl. Like we weren't really, because our Instagram was small and the following was small and I wasn't like needing a catalogue of imagery. I actually needed to find customers.
Yeah.
So building the rapport with the women that were interested in the brand already, like somewhat interested, I needed to nurture those. So
Yeah.
it kind of almost, the Instagram side of it really at the very, very beginning almost came as a as a secondary sort of amazing thing to me actually just wanting the feedback and finding customers that we thought would be aligned with the brand. that we wanted to sort of nurture and keep
Yeah.
those relationships going.
And it also kind of goes back to what you were good at in your
Yeah.
first
Oh,
roles
yeah.
of like that customer relationship and,
Yeah.
and what your strength was. And clearly you and Craig had it's Craig, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Craig had very different skill
Yeah.
sets.
Yeah.
So did you know early on, like, this is your role, this is his role? Did you ever have that discussion, or was it more scrappy?
I don't think we needed to because it was so different, our roles. So
Like it was obvious?
yeah. Like he was the one who'd had a business before.
Right.
So I only had a certain skill set, which was customer care and understanding e-commerce and understanding social media.
Yeah.
So we just fell into those roles really naturally. He was the designer. He did all the financials. He did all the sort of sampling and the feedback and the comments and the manufacturing and handled that side of it. So it actually was these two very, very different skill sets that worked so well and we were also very different in our approaches and our opinions. So we fought like hell to get what we wanted across the line.
Yeah.
Like he didn't want to go on Instagram. He didn't like that channel. He didn't want that. He didn't want to do it. He
That's
didn't like
crazy.
he didn't think that he thought it was all vain and
Have
vanity.
you had that
and,
conversation where you're like, you see?
No, because I think that he would probably be in denial. But I remember very clearly
Yeah.
because he was
We
like,
don't
"Nah."
forget.
Yeah, I was like, we don't forget. But he did so much. Like
Yeah.
he had the contacts in China, and our distribution model was because of him. And he also had the this obsession with the Lean Startup, which was a book.
Oh, that's such a good book.
Yeah.
That's a good book to read if
It's
you are
still
going
great.
into
It is so relevant,
Yeah.
and it just gets your head in the right place because it's just about doing everything as lean as you possibly can in the beginning and being
creative as well.
Yeah, because it allows for hyper flexibility. Because you can pivot, because you're going to need to pivot. Like
Yeah.
whatever you think your business will be, it ends up always being something else. It is never what you think. So the more lean you are in your approach and obviously have your vision and your ethos, all set. But everything else though, it needs to change. Like it needs to be able to change.
What was your biggest pivot moment?
Going to neoprene.
Yes.
From
Okay.
nylon
That's a good segue. Okay, tell me.
So it was only a few months into launch and I moved back to Australia for the summer. So Craig stayed in Hong Kong and I went back because I needed to work on finding some customers. So I had to go back and do the wholesale and I had to go back and meet the stores and meet customers. And I was selling bikinis out of the boot of my car.
Love that.
To like friends and family for $60, like a discount. It was actually funny because I would keep the cash and that's how I survived. And I didn't tell Craig that I'd sold more than I did.
That's so funny.
That was my pocket
Just
money.
a little bit of
Pocket money. Yeah, a little bit of theft, but it's fine. And I'd been there for a couple of months, and and Craig was over there just sort of working on his own and being super creative because we had built no life in Hong Kong. So all we did was work. So that's all he was doing. And I remember him sending me a photo of this neoprene fabric, and he was at the fabric markets, and he was like, "Hey, this is really cool. I reckon we could do a bikini
Wow.
in this. I'm going to get it sampled." So we got it sampled and he made it and he sent it over to Australia for me to try on. And as soon as I tried it on, I was like, oh, this is good. Like, this feels, like I just had that feeling. I was like, this feels exciting.
Yeah.
Like, this is going to be it. I just knew.
That's crazy. That you
And
had
so
that, like,
we went and made them like immediately and went into production, and he'd worked really hard on a very quick production model. So we had the bikinis sort of made and done within like 2 weeks. And then he
my
shipped like a bunch of bikinis to Australia, like about 4 or 5 boxes. And they turned up actually all creased because we didn't learn that you have to pack them flat, which became a really big thing for the storage of the bikinis. They have to be stored flat and because they can bend, and if they bend and crease, they're really hard to get them out. So they all came creased and folded, and I spent like a whole 4 days, like 12-hour days, ironing at my mum and dad's house because that's where I was staying. Ironing every bikini one by one to get them in a position to be able to send them out to customers or send them to wholesale accounts, because we had a few accounts that said they would take them. And that is the pivot moment that turned the brand around, because they just were so identifiable, and we had the black binding in the original bikini. So they were Triangl, there were 5 colours that we launched with. And it was like neon orange, neon yellow, blue, black, white, and pink. with black binding, and that just immediately went big.
Crazy.
Yeah, like straight away.
And it had such a strong identity. And I think
Yeah.
with swimwear as well, it's so hard to set yourself apart.
Yeah.
And okay, so then I'm obsessed with your method of this like FOMO effect. I love when you talk about it. I think it's such a good tip
Yeah.
and such a like creative way of getting around things.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
tell us,
Yeah.
obviously, then it blew up.
Yes. Yeah.
You, at this point, you're in Australia and Craig's in Hong Kong.
I'd gone back to Hong Kong, so at
You're
the end
going
of
back and
summer, we realised that things were actually starting to go well enough. Like I think we were getting maybe like 2 to 3 orders a day, because that was sort of our growth was. You could notice it, but it was still small. Like at the
Yeah.
very beginning, it was like 1 order a week, and then it would be like 2 or 3 orders a week, and then there'd be like 1 or 2 days where you'd get like 2 orders a day, and you were like, oh my god.
Yeah.
And so by the time I came back to Australia, we were sort of getting like maybe 4 or 5 orders a week, which for such a startup brand
Yeah.
that had no reach and nothing, it was-
Amazing.
we're like, they're finding us. Like
Yeah.
this is so exciting.
Something's happening. Something's building.
Yeah. So I came back, and then we sort of went into our gifting, I guess, program strategy, which had become organically. We'd already been building it organically through me getting the feedback, and then we realised that this was actually this gifting without expectation was actually quite a good strategy, and that became sort of something that I started to seek out. So I would trawl Instagram to find girls that, these weren't influencers or creators or whatever, they were just girls that I didn't care how many followers they had, because
Yeah.
back then no one had many. Like it was a lot to have 1,000. That was like
Yeah.
a big time creator with 1,000 followers. And so I was finding those girls that just felt aligned with the brand, because I wanted those girls that felt like Triangl girls.
Yeah.
So I was just searching for that, and they all had that aesthetic that I wanted. Like they were young, they, like around my age or a bit younger.
I feel like they were quite sporty, as
Sporty,
well. Like
yeah.
surfer.
Yes, they were very Aussie beach girl
Yeah.
vibes. Like they would be at the beach often. There'd be photos on their Instagram of them at the beach. That was basically
Outdoorsy.
the thing I looked for. Or they had a pool. And so if they were posting at the beach or at the pool, I was like, that's
She's
the
our
girl.
girl.
She's a girl. And so I'd reach out to them and just sort of offer the bikini, and of course people are like, yeah, like for sure, totally. And so then we would have images come back and feedback come back, and the biggest thing that I noticed, even though the images were great, was the word of mouth feedback and the word of mouth marketing that we were getting. So I would get these messages and emails from girls who'd be like, I saw my friend wearing this bikini. I loved it. She said it's amazing. I need help with sizing. And so I realized that this word of mouth marketing, which is like the oldest marketing of all time, was still so
Actually had an effect,
powerful
yeah.
in a world where we were starting to sort of, make everything very technology based and digitalized. I was like, well, actually, the word of mouth is still really, really powerful. So our gifting was really built off that as well. And then the gifting was working so well in an individual sense, I was like, why don't we start gifting the friends of the girls that we find? Because it was quite hard to find girls that, like there's not that many that were on Instagram back then that are posting at the beach and at the pool. So
There was kind of like the two extremes, like people with no following,
Yeah.
or like a small following,
Yeah.
and then celebrity.
yes.
There wasn't really
Yeah.
this like influencer world.
Yeah, so I was there was a small period where it was actually quite hard to find girls to gift.
Yeah.
And so I kind of went, well, why don't we gift the girls that we find, why don't we reach out and offer to give all of their friends a pair? So like I would say, I'm from Triangl and I would love to send you a pair of bikinis. And also if you have like 3 or 4 friends that you think would want a pair as well, happy to send you all them. And so that
That's so
created this really exciting energy, because then, offline, these girls are then picking their 3 or 4 friends, and then they're all having a discussion. What are you going to get? What are you going to get? They're talking
Yeah.
about sizing. They're working it all out. Like, let's get the same. No, I want that. No. And then they put their order in. I send them. Then they have the next wave of them all getting it and then trying them on and talking about it. And then the next wave of them all going and wearing them by the pool or to the beach.
So good. Also,
That-
the impact of a group of girls like all hanging out together, all wearing this
Yeah.
like very unique.
Yeah, I think that was when we
So cool.
the movement of Triangl really started through
Yeah.
that, because it became this sort of rite of passage for Australian girls to all wear them as a group. And I'm pretty confident that's how it started, because we were basically setting it up in that way.
Yeah.
So the FOMO method happened because that was working so well that I was moving into the US with that strategy, and I was just going around gifting groups of girls because that was going to accelerate our growth. And there was one girl that I really, really wanted to get, which was Kendall Jenner, because she was the main aesthetic of the brand, because she was a sporty
your
girl.
Customer. Yeah, she was sporty, athletic.
But obviously untouchable. Hard to get. She already had, like a couple of million followers. So
You set your hopes high.
I was like, let's find a way. So I took the gifting the groups of friend model, gifting the friends, but I went to all of Kendall's friends and said, can I give you guys bikinis? And there are about 6 of them that I'd found, because I'm a really good sleuth on social media.
I love that.
Like,
You did a
it's
deep
a skill, and I've been able to, I can find anything. Like my friends still now will be like, hey, can you find me this? And I can find it online. I'm really good.
Okay,
I know how to do.
who to come to.
I know
if I
how to
need
go
some
into every
detector.
corner of the internet. Anyway, so I found out her group of friends.
Okay.
It wasn't that hard, but it required a bit of effort and a bit of like nurturing those relationships. So we actually built the relationships with some of those girls earlier, like a few months before we even tried to get to Kendall. So the 2 main ones that we were already gifting and they were sort of sharing our bikinis were Hailey Bieber, she was Baldwin back then, and Bella Hadid. But they weren't anyone.
How insane is it that they were like your way into
Yeah.
Kendall, whereas now, like, oh my God,
No,
imagine.
like
Imagine you'd freak out if you were like chatting to Bella Hadid or Hailey Bieber, like them being your gateway.
No, it's crazy. And like Bella, I remember the two things about them. Hailey was so sweet, but like a real like middle America girl. So like her photos that she would send us would be her on a lake, and we were like, they're not that good. Like she's like, like, I don't know. And Bella would always hoik the bikinis way up, high waisted, because she was like, that's her
annoyed about
vibe.
that,
Like
'cause you're like,
she's consistent.
Yeah.
And I was like, they're too sexy. Like I don't like that. We're not that. We're like cool, sporty girl. We're not sexy, hoiked up on the high waist girl. So they weren't really giving us content that we could use. Hilariously, like
That's
it's
so
so
funny.
but we ended up, we kept those relationships going, because I knew they were girls that we needed to keep gifting. And there are a few others in that group as well. And they're quite well known now as well, because they all are.
I'm dying to see that picture of Hailey in the lake.
Oh my God, I'm sure it will be somewhere. It's somewhere it's on the internet. I need to find it. And
like,
Bella with the
sorry, Hailey.
and they were
It's a no from us.
They were such nice girls. Like, I mean, they were young. They're like 15,
my
like they're
God.
teenagers.
Crazy, yeah.
Really young. And so we just kept those relationships going, always like, I was hoping that one day I would get to Kendall, but I didn't know how. Like I just was like, it's enough. We were already growing at a really good pace anyway. So it wasn't like I was desperate to get her. But then one morning I woke up and I had an email from a Gmail account, which was so it had Kendall in there, and it was like a weird, like a teenager's, like Kenny face something, whatever, at gmail.com. And it was like, oh, hey, I just wanted to reach out. I got your email address from one of my friends. All of my friends have been wearing Triangl this summer, and I really want a couple of pairs. Like, can I have some? And I was like, oh my God,
it's working.
Like, let's go. So we
have
sent her
whatever you
everything.
want.
And it's funny because whenever this gets mentioned and it's written up or it's on anything, a lot of people sort of are like, oh, why didn't Kendall just buy them? Like, she's rich, like, why didn't she buy the bikinis herself? But that's the whole point, is the FOMO of it. Like, she
Why am I not being gifted?
Exactly. It wasn't about that. Like,
Yeah.
she was a young teenager who wanted to fit in and also be part of her friends getting the free shit. Like, I get it. So
Yeah, you don't want to be the friend that
no,
then had to
go and ask your mum to buy them. It's like, it's Kendall Jenner. She deserves the
It,
free stuff.
represented
Okay,
more. Yeah, no, I get
so
that.
that's why she didn't buy them. It's like it's a FOMO thing. Like, I get it. So she posted, and our brand then basically just like exploded in the US. Like,
That's
really, like
crazy.
overnight, we just had just crazy growth. And then it went from us reaching out to everybody to then suddenly everybody wanting Triangl. And so I still get messages now from girls that don't realize that I've left the brand going, I'd really love to be a Triangl model, and can you send me bikinis?
That's so sweet.
Because that's what started happening, because it just became this thing, and being featured on the Triangl page became very quickly, because we were growing at about like 30,000 followers a day.
Yeah, wow.
There was this, what's it
That's
called? Like
crazy.
social, I can't remember what it was, but it was this really like generic website that basically showed you your growth every day.
Yeah.
And we were growing at a pace, like the only brand that was growing more than us at the time was Victoria's Secret, because they were obviously lingerie
Yeah.
and a bigger version of what we were doing. But we were growing like, 30,000 a day for like a couple of years. Like it was just nuts.
Wow.
Like,
How did you deal with the demand then?
yeah,
Because that is crazy.
a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
We basically, it was like, whilst it was all exciting, it was actually incredibly stressful
Yeah.
and really quite like horrendous to navigate,
Yeah.
because there was only two of us, and our volume obviously suddenly went through the roof, and
Oh my
we were
God.
selling hundreds of pairs a day. At our peak, it was 2,000 pairs a day.
That's
And
crazy. You've gone from
crazy.
like 2 to 3 a week, and then you're like 2,000 a day.
Yeah, like within like a year, really.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was up in the hundreds really quickly, like within 6 months. And so that required basically spending a lot more time in China. We had to suddenly, develop new styles really quickly. We had to do more photo shoots. I had to manage the customer care, because we
Yeah.
introduced live chat, which was
You.
something that I'd never seen a brand do before, but I wanted to do it because I wanted that real life interaction that you
Yeah.
get in a store. And that was incredible for conversion. I still think that's an incredibly powerful tool online, to have live chat if you
Yeah.
can do it, and not bots, like real
People.
people that know the brand,
Totally.
talking and helping customers to convert. And so I was trying to manage that, and that went from being like one
And
or
that
two
was
chats a
literally
day to being like 100. So we had to hire people really quickly.
Oh my gosh.
And it was really stressful. It was really like, I was sleeping probably like 4 hours like a night. Like I would
Wow.
literally work all day on my laptop in our little studio office space, and then I would go to bed about 1 o'clock, and I just put my laptop to the side, and then the first time I woke up, whatever time that was, so it
Open
was
the
usually
laptop.
5 or 6 a.m., I would just open my eyes, and it didn't matter how tired I was. I just knew that like there'd be emails, and there'd be people waiting, and there'd be things to do. So I would just pull my laptop onto my lap, and then I would work from like 6 till 11, and then I would have my little treat at 11 a.m., which was a shower.
Oh my
Because
God.
I needed to like find this like joy in like this
Yeah.
very crazy period. So like
Yeah.
I would have this hot shower and maybe like make a tea or something and have some food, and then go back to work. So it was like that for months and months and months and months.
And I remember us touching on this last time, but it really started to affect your mental health.
Yeah, yeah.
And what was kind of the in between of all the amazing success,
Mm-hmm.
but then you deciding to leave and sell?
Oh God, yeah. So
I mean, that's
yeah.
quite a big question, but
Yes, yeah.
there
Well,
must have been an accumulation that was just
exactly
building up.
yeah, and it was starting back then, because I went from we went from startup to fully fledged global business within a year. And I'd never run a fully fledged global business. I'd never run a startup. So the leveling up that you needed to do mentally, physically, logistically, operationally, in a business sense and a personal sense is
Yeah.
phenomenal, and not something that I think anyone can withstand. I had no mentor. We had no contact with family and friends, basically because we were so busy. Like
Yeah,
it got to a
didn't have
point
time.
where like I just didn't reply to anyone for like months. Like I barely spoke to anyone. And I would, message like my mom or like my sister and sort of be like, oh, I'm good, I'm good, I'm just really busy. I love you. Like it's great, it's exciting, amazing, but like no one. So I was so isolated.
Yeah.
And it was so much like Craig and I were trying to really manage the growth of the business, and just not having any time to do anything, to step back, to enjoy, to think about. It's like there was no time for podcasts or thinking. I had no thinking time to like reflect on like what kind of leader do I? No, none of that.
No.
Like it was just go, go, go. And so there was a few things. Like in 2015, we moved to Monaco, and I also had my first baby. And so that was pretty insane. That was a pretty nightmarish
Also,
scenario.
big shift. I mean,
Yeah.
you're going from did you go from Hong Kong to Monaco?
Yeah.
Quite the change.
Quite a change. And going from Hong Kong to Monaco. So in Hong Kong, we were broke startup founders, and we moved to Monaco as multimillionaires. And at that point, bringing in $1 million revenue a week. So
Crazy.
it was crazy, like crazy, like ridiculous. And so it sounds great, but it was so confronting, like so lonely. And I didn't know where I wanted to fit into the business because I liked marketing and customer care and I liked being creative, but I had to do a million other things. And we didn't have the time to hire anyone properly and build an infrastructure and build processes and systems. So everything was done really chaotically. And like we were living in Monaco and then we would go to the States and meet with people and do certain, different things because we also had a lot of people start knocking on our doors wanting to buy the business or buy into the business. And so we kind of started that journey a little bit because why not? And they were just mouths agape. Like I could not believe at the lack of infrastructure we had for the money that we were doing, like pulling in. Like they'd never seen a business like that before. And even now, I don't think there are many businesses I don't know any business that did what we did in the way that we did it, which I wouldn't recommend because it was really tough. And so my mental health just really declined. Like I had Oscar, my firstborn. I wanted to spend more time with him. I wanted to enjoy being a mother. We also wanted to enjoy the nice things in life because we had money to be able to do so, but we needed to keep our focus on scaling the business. There's just so much. Craig and I were definitely at that point in a really bad relationship because we'd never spent any time nurturing it. So like we didn't even have one. And I hated
by then,
that.
you're all of a sudden, you're not like a couple,
We're just business partners. That
and
actually,
you're existing, like cohabiting.
Oh yeah, it was horrendous and I didn't want that.
And then in your work life, you're not feeling that joy anymore that you used to feel. It's just everything is overwhelming. So I can imagine, like, on paper, it sounds incredible. Like, you're making so much money and you've built this thing from scratch. But in reality, like, what was the joy in your day?
Oh, well, that's the thing. And then you feel guilty because you're like, well, no, I'm rich, so I should be happy.
Yes.
This is everything I wanted. Isn't this why I started my business? To make
then
money?
You feel like a bad person.
And have financial freedom. And so I should enjoy it. And then I thought I was broken because of that. I genuinely thought that there was something wrong with me because I wasn't fulfilled by having money, because I thought that was why I was doing all of this.
Yeah.
And that is like the scariest thing to go through because it makes you question everything you've ever understood.
Yeah.
Because I was like, well, if I'm not happy now that I've got all this money,
when will I feel
when will I ever be happy? I think I'm never going to be happy.
Oh my gosh.
And so that's what I lived with for a couple of years, of just feeling like I'm in a bad relationship where I'm not in love with my partner and I have all this money, but it doesn't fulfill me or make me happy. My business outgrew me. I don't know how I can, like, what my skill set is even within the business because I'm not doing anything that I enjoy.
Yeah.
I didn't feel creative. I didn't think I had creativity anymore because it had been dulled. I had shut myself off from everyone I knew because I didn't want to seem ungrateful, because everyone's like, dream life.
Yeah,
oh my God,
so
look
then
at
you're pushing yourself further into isolation.
Yep.
So what was the turning point? What was your point where you got to where you were like, okay, enough? And what were the steps you actually took to fix things?
Well, it was in 2017, near the end of 2017, and I was pregnant with Ollie, my second. And I'd kind of come to this like almost like dissociative like middle ground on it. I was like, I can live in this dissociative way. Monaco's a great place to be dissociative in.
I was just going to say probably
a lot of women that are like that there.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I almost was like that like apathetic feeling about it. And I was like, all right, well, I can probably do this. I'm just gonna, this is just the way it is. If this is just the way it must feel to have all this money, this just must be the payoff. Like, and I just assumed that. And so I kind of had this like apathetic year where Craig and I actually were kind of like fine, and it was like whatever. It was just like meh, indifference about everything. And then we moved back to Hong Kong to have Ollie because that's where we had Oscar, and I did not like the system in Monaco to have babies. You'd think it'd be very progressive and beautiful, but it's horrendous. So I moved back to Hong Kong, and then it was really hard to kind of escape.
That's interesting that Hong Kong felt like home. Like going back to
yeah. And then that was kind of like, it was almost like I couldn't go back to Australia yet, but it was sort of halfway there. Yeah. And it was enough of reality to be like, I remember how I used to feel.
Yeah, comfortable.
Yeah, like, and she's
familiar.
not. Yeah, I don't know that girl anymore. And then I had Ollie, and a few months after that, actually no, it was before I had Ollie, sorry. Craig and I decided to separate because like, yes, I was apathetic, but I was also incredibly sensitive to anything that he did or said, and it was really miserable for both of us. So he basically said, I think we need to end it. And I was like, yeah, I feel like, I think so. I think I'm ready.
Good idea.
Yeah, I think this would be good. And the funny thing is that I had demonized everything by this point too. So I thought the reason why I wasn't happy was because of Craig, was because of Triangl, was because of everyone else and everything else around me. So I was kind of like one by one,
Blaming
getting rid of
everything.
all of these things to then be happy again. So Craig was the first one, and I was like, great. I'm like, well, that didn't make me feel better. I still feel horrendous. So then I was like, well, I'm going to exit Triangl. I first went to take Triangl over. That was the plan. And that was just a really overwhelming task for a woman with a newborn and a 2.5-year-old.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Too much. So I gave up on that idea pretty quickly, which is probably one of the things I maybe regret now a little bit, but you know. And I got rid of Triangl, and I was like, and I remember that moment very clearly because it was in London actually. So we decided to separate, me exit the business in London, and so Craig and I sat down and we went over the assets, personal and business, and kind of like handshake agreement on what I would get, settlement to walk away. And so I kind of walked out of there like free, free, like free of Craig, free of Triangl.
Moment,
And I was walking down the street and I was like, I don't feel free.
Yeah.
I still don't feel good. And I remember how frustrating it was to like still not feel like the shackles had gone. And sat at the front of a hotel in London, had a glass of champagne, and I called my sister and I was like, oh, I'm done, I'm out and finally free, and definitely didn't feel free.
Yeah.
And then it still took me, even though
You're
that happened.
kind of like acting
Free.
Yeah.
I'm free.
Yeah, like this is how the moment should be,
feel.
and
So I'm gonna
act in that way.
live it out. And then still pretended that, things were okay for another couple of months. I stayed in Monaco, which was a terrible idea. Moved into an apartment, just like hung out. I don't know what I did all day. I have no idea. I can't remember. It was a weird time. And then I decided one night Craig and I had been spending a lot of time together, and it felt like we were on the way towards like a resolution, and that my life would go back to us being together and me being in Triangl. I didn't want this, but I didn't know what I wanted. So
and you still couldn't pinpoint what was going on.
No.
So you're confused.
And I was like, I just didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And so he wanted that, and I was kind of like, I guess so. And then I remember the week leading up to the decision that I finally made, I had lost my appetite. Like, my body started to shut down. I had like full panic attacks every night.
Oh my God.
My heart, I thought I was having a heart attack. Craig was in another room. I would go into him and be like, I'm not feeling well. I think something's wrong. And he'd be like, go back to bed.
Yeah.
Oh, whatever. Couldn't eat, just lost a bunch of weight in a week. Like, literally never had this before, where I just couldn't actually put food into my mouth. It was like my body just started basically saying, like,
almost like, listen,
we are telling you
Yeah.
to not do this and do something for yourself.
Yeah.
And so I just said to him, like one night, sort of like a week into that, I said, I'm not coping. I'm struggling. I'm going to take the boys and go back to Australia. And he was really supportive. He was like, yeah, I can see you're not doing well. Off you go.
Yeah.
So I moved back to Australia for the summer, or for a couple of months or whatever it was, and I stayed. I realised as soon as I got onto Australian soil and started to talk to people, I realised that I was in a really bad way.
It was
And
almost like you going back to Australia was like you facing up to actually what was going on inside, and that was the place that represented who you actually are.
Yeah.
So you couldn't avoid facing
couldn't avoid it. And I kind of started to realize that all these things that were happening around me that I was blaming were actually not the problem, and the problem was me, and I had to work on myself and fix what was going on, and go on a very, very, very long healing process and at the start I didn't know what was going to come out of it. I still kind of felt like, I don't know if I'll ever find my way back to myself, but I still went on that journey anyway because I didn't know what else to do. And I just got to the point where I was like, I'm just tired of the numbness. I'm tired of feeling just empty every
Yeah.
day and having such a low level of self-worth. Like, I'm just tired of it. So I'm going to try this because the other option is just like horrendous. And
Yeah, because you know how the other option felt.
yeah,
And
I
that's
was
how
like, I
you were
don't want to
living.
stay there. So I'm going to try. So that was kind of it. And then,
And what do you now looking back, what were
yeah,
the like three things, and it could be simple things or a couple of things
yeah,
that you actually feel were the things that helped you and got you out of this? Like it
yeah.
could be like a daily small thing.
Yeah. I mean, talking to people,
Yeah.
honestly, like
Opening
really,
up.
actually, honestly, like when people said, "How are you?" it would be, "Well, actually, I'm not that good," you know? And
Yeah.
like, I just started to have conversations with people, and they're like, like the way my body relaxed as soon as because someone would be like, "Oh my God, it's amazing. You look at you." And I would be like, "Well, actually," and it was just like that. It was like my
Yeah.
body would just like let go because I was
Yeah.
able to sort of connect. And
I
the,
think that's a really important thing.
yeah.
Like it's that old saying, like a problem shared is a problem halved.
Oh,
But
yeah.
actually, like it
Yeah.
does really help to just open up and
Yeah.
talk. And you never know, like that person might be going through the same thing and can
Yeah.
relate to something or give
Yeah.
you, help you and be
Yeah.
there for you. So
Yeah.
it's always better
Always
to,
better to talk and like and talk honestly. And I
yeah,
think also like I started seeing people professionally, so that people with
yeah,
actual like skills and like
to advise
degrees
you.
and
Yeah.
to advise me on what I was going through. And the thing with that was the most important was the consistency of it, because I came back and it wasn't like I went on this amazing healing journey that was like really beautiful. I like came back and also like partied and like
Yeah.
took drugs and drank a lot and tried to avoid my issues at the same time as working on them. And I think one of the things that was so big and so important to share about my story is that when I went down those two, like I didn't pick one. I didn't like have a fork in the road and go, now I'm going to start on the healing journey and never drink again. I actually did both at the same time.
Yeah.
Because like healing is different for everyone. And for me, that was the way I needed to do it. It
Yeah.
was almost like I just hoped that side of it would eventually
One thing
outweigh
would lead to another.
the
And,
partying,
yeah.
So like consistency of showing up and working on myself through, talking to it was a spiritual thing for me more so, but like going and seeing those people and being consistent with that at the same time as still going out and like partying and avoiding it
Yeah.
was something that really helped me, because I just was like, I didn't sort of think, oh, well, I'm broken again or whatever. I was like, no, I'm still making progress. It was like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, two
Yeah.
steps forward, 1 step back. And I kept that going and I was just consistent with that.
But
That
I
was a
think
really big
a
one.
healing journey is not linear, is it? There
No.
are so many different like bumps along the road.
So
and-
many.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And now fast forward,
Yeah.
because I know I don't have too much more time with you, but we could talk for hours. But now fast forward,
Yeah.
you have Deering.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is such a cool brand. And as we said in the beginning, it has such a strong identity already. And it's only just launched, right? Last
Yes.
September?
Yeah,
Was
last
that-
September. 6 months
so,
old.
congratulations.
A baby.
How does
Yeah.
it feel?
So good.
Do you feel like you're able to apply all the lessons that you learned from Triangl and over the past like decade?
Yes, but I still feel like I'm getting it wrong a lot of the time, and I think that you always do. I think the only like you're still going to make as many mistakes, but I think I'm learning from them better because
Yeah.
I'm older and wiser, and I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember that mistake. I made that before. I made it again. I'm not going to make it the third time. So it's been a deeply creative project for me. One thing that was funny is at the start of the Triangl journey, I felt creative, and then I lost that, and I started to really just feel like I wasn't a creative person.
Yeah.
And now I've realized that like I'm probably one of the most creative people that I know.
Yeah.
Like I'm like deeply creative, and creation is something that I kind of learned about during my healing process. That I had this weird like understanding of creation, that like being creative meant you had to draw or paint or like be in the arts. But I realized that creating is actually like just actually making something with the right intention that you want other people to appreciate. And when I
Yeah.
understood
I love
that, I was like, oh, I
am
am creative. Yay. And so it's been really creative, and I've
Yeah.
loved it. I've really like, the brand is doing really well. It's a really great way to sort of build a brand with storytelling and beautiful imagery. And I just love fashion so much. Like I'm such a tragic fashion lover, and I love how accessible it can be for everyone if it's done in the right way. And so
Yeah.
I'm trying to build a brand that's really accessible to everybody, but still very, very fashion. But
Yeah.
again, not in that snobby or elitist way. And I really also like the idea of like fashion being a form of self-care, because that was one thing that really got me through that sort of journey when I started to work on myself, was finding the joy in that again, of like getting dressed up
Yeah.
daily and caring about how I look
The
and
knock-on effect that
Yeah.
has, I mean, it can sound superficial, but actually there's so much more meaning to it, because
Yeah.
when you wear a good outfit, you feel confident
Yeah.
when you walk into a room and you have that confidence.
Yeah.
Things happen, things
Yeah.
evolve in your day,
Yeah.
and you know, it just lifts you, doesn't
Yeah,
it? So
like,
I totally agree.
Totally. Like personal style is
Although today I'm not really embodying that,
No.
but,
but
but
you
it's
are.
fine. It's fine.
As long as the thing is, but you are, because you feel good in it.
Comfortable,
And so
exactly.
that's the energy that you're putting out there.
I
And
think
like,
that's the
it
key
makes you look
thing.
good. Like it's
not
like,
about being fashionable.
Yeah.
It's about feeling good in yourself, and
yeah.
also feeling comfortable, but feeling like an elevated you.
Yes, exactly. Like I dress for myself. Like I literally just want to look in the mirror and be like, yeah, I feel like me.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I look good. Like
Yeah.
it's a feeling. Like I
It is.
use that feeling to carry me through the day. Like, you know,
love
I'll
that.
look at myself in every mirror all day to remind myself that I feel good and that I'm feeling happy and I'm
Yeah.
feeling powerful. I'm feeling pretty. I'm feeling ethereal. Whatever feeling I want to embody.
Yeah.
I use fashion to communicate that.
love
And I
that.
love the power fashion has in doing that. I think it's more powerful than beauty. I think it's more powerful than, you know, so many other consumer brands, because it's there in your face really obviously, and you can express yourself in so many ways. Like sometimes I think, God, I wish I had just like, because I can change between like the girl that I am. Like sometimes I'm like cool girl, and sometimes I'm more like serious suit girl. And like, I'm like, should I pick a lane? And then I'm like, no, because this is me.
Yeah.
This is how I express. And other people will have their lane that they pick, and other, you know, and that's the beauty of it. And I think in fashion, and social media has been amazing, but the fast fashion sort of churn and burn has actually been really detrimental to personal style. I think people don't know what their style is more than, they just don't know anymore.
Yeah, that's so true.
And so I really feel really fortunate that I'm going to have a voice that hopefully can sort of help educate people on it. It doesn't have to be Deering. Like it doesn't, I don't really, it'd be great, but I don't care. But if people just unlock their personal style again,
Yeah.
and my brand helps them get there and helps them feel good about dressing and helps them sort of like give them energy during the day, then my job's done.
Then you've done it.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to do a quick fire round to
Okay.
finish. So, what is one wellness practice that's changed your life?
Savoring the little
Savoring
moments.
moments, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
And what is your favorite thing about being 40?
Wisdom. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good one. What's the book that's changed your life?
Probably The Lean Startup.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a good one.
Yeah. I've never actually read it in full. I've read it like start to end. I've read it in all different ways. So like I one day want to read it start to finish, but I've always come into it at different
And
parts.
like gone back to it and
Yeah,
referenced.
like
Yeah.
I never started at the start because I got introduced to it through Craig through different bits. So like, yeah, it was a unique, but that's the one. Yeah.
And favorite styling tip?
Ooh, oh God, I have so many. I would say I would say dress down at the moment. And like whenever people say like dress up or dress down, I'm like more of like a
Dress down.
dress
girl.
down. Like for example, if you're going to an event and you don't really know what to wear and what the theme is going to be and what the vibe is going to be, dress down, dress comfortably, wear like your coolest piece, I think.
Yeah, I like that.
And also, actually another one, don't save your good pieces.
Yes.
Don't put, like, I always do this. I used to put I sometimes do still do it actually. I put an outfit on and I'll be like, this is good. I'm not going to wear this today because
Yeah.
it's too good for today. Don't do
Yeah.
that, because the energy of what you're wearing that day, and I've tested this many times, so I know that energy won't be on that outfit the next day. So like if I put a great outfit on and I'm like, I'm going to save it, I often end up don't ever wearing it, or I don't wear it, or I might wear it, but it didn't feel the same.
Love
so
that.
like if you put something on and you feel amazing and you're kind of like,
Go for it.
go for it.
Okay.
That actually probably contradicts the dress down. That's probably more like dress up, but just do your thing.
Yeah, dress your favorite pieces.
Yeah, totally. Don't save them.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks,
And so
Bri.
where can we all find you?
Yes. Well, you can find my brand. The website is deering.world. And that's our Instagram. And then my Instagram personally is Erin K Deering, and it's DEERING. And yeah, that's where I live.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, darling.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.